do you just want to get the hours to renew your license, or do you really want to learn something and become a better appraiser? And by that, and with the networking, it's all of that has made me a much more confident appraiser, running my business and my interactions with upset homeowners and agents.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair. I want to remind you we are sponsored by three REAA companies. Of course, A La Mode is a sponsor here. Been with A La Mode for over 20 years personally, and they've been in business for over 3 decades, helping appraisers to do more with less. Check them out. Go to allamode.com or 800 A La Mode. We are sponsored, of course, by DataMaster. DataMaster, of course, bringing out DataMaster 6 across the country. Had an opportunity just a few weeks ago in Las Vegas to take a peek at their DataMaster 6 once again, and I'll tell you, it just keeps improving and getting better. Check them out. Go to datamasterusa.com. One more time, it's datamasterusa.com. And finally, we are sponsored by OREP Insurance. OREP, of course, is the E&O insurance that I use. Why? Well, number one, they sponsor this program, and I don't send out testimonials of something that I don't use personally. But I'll tell you, ever since I switched over to OREP, I've been impressed, number one, by the lower cost and the higher benefits. Check them out. Go to orep.org. That's OREP.org for more information. Well, folks, we have a special show for you today. It's not often that we have two guests on, but I happen to have two guests on today. One is Brian Melsheimer, and the other is Joe Lynch. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Hi, Dustin. Great to be here.
Good to have you, my friend. And Joe, welcome to you.
Thank you, Dustin.
And Brian, of course, has been on the program before. He was willing to do an appraiser stories not too long ago. And how'd that go, Brian?
It was great. I got a lot of good feedback from friends that I haven't spoken to in a while, and even a couple
Nice.
people sending me emails saying, "Hey, I'd love to meet up with you sometime."
That is great.
So it was fun.
That is great. A lot of people are a little bit chagrined, and it's challenging for them to be on this program. But I don't know how your feelings were about it going into it. But how was the experience in general? Is it a scary thing?
Not at all. Very, very relaxed. Great vibe to do, and
Good.
just like a conversation, just like you say.
Very good. Well, I appreciate that, and just as I'm going to kind of let you introduce yourself, Brian, since you've been on this program before. For those who did not hear that episode, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a certified residential appraiser, been appraising for a little over 15 years. I'm located in Nevada City, California, which is in the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas. Do, like I said, all residential work, and I'm a member of the REAA, Real Estate Appraisers Association.
Awesome. We will talk about that in just a second. The reason, of course, for being on the program, I want to introduce you, of course, to Joe Lynch. So Joe Lynch is a certified residential appraiser since 2002. He's out of Woodland, California. Joe, how far away is that from Nevada City?
It's about an hour and a half drive, depending on traffic.
So you guys are neighbors, and you are the Sacramento president, the regional president for the REAA, which is the Real Estate Appraisal Association. And that's really what we're here to talk about. Brian, of course, hat tip to you. You've been on this program before and thought that this would be a good topic for appraisers to hear nationwide. I'm going to start with you, Brian. Why this topic, and why putting out the REAA when frankly it's not everywhere? It's just kind of California, right?
Yeah, so sort of funny story. When I listened to my interview on the podcast, I didn't quite listen to the very end. I listened to the end of the credits and sort of turned it off after the music. And I got a couple of emails from random people that said, "Hey, I'd love to meet up with you." And I sort of thought, well, that was weird. I wish I would have gotten into REAA a little bit more and sort of to talk about the group that I'm a part of. And then all of a sudden someone said to listen at the end again.
Listen to the end. Yep.
Oh, that makes way more sense now. So
you got to read past the value in an appraisal report, Brian. There's
exactly. You can't just stop. Can't stop at bottom of page 2, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, so we sometimes throw an Easter egg in there. So warning, guys. We might throw that in there at the end, but and we did have an Easter egg at the end of your deal. But again, my question: Why REAA when most people are not going to be familiar with or really in the area that even covers?
Well, to me, a couple years ago is when I joined, and I was sort of the appraiser that sits in my appraisal cave and gets used to just pumping out these reports. And you may talk to a borrower here and there, but you don't really get out of your comfort zone and interact with other appraisers. And so, you might not have REAA in your backyard, but there are local appraiser affiliates. And I can't tell you how much it's changed my personal life and my professional life to get out and interact with more like-minded people.
Excellent. Yeah. And that's what we want to talk about today is I want to get into the specifics with Joe here about REAA, what it is. But in general, we also want to talk about associations. So listeners, hold tight because, I think this is one of those topics that sometimes just kind of gets put off by the wayside. Hey, I'm busy. Hey, I've got a lot going on. I don't really want to join an association. I promise you there's something in this episode for you, listeners. So stay tuned. So Joe, let's talk. You are the Sacramento president, the regional president for the REAA. Let's start first of all with what is the REAA?
Okay, so the Real Estate Appraisers Association is a group of 5 chapters. We have a chapter in the North Bay, San Francisco Bay Area, East Bay. My chapter is in Sacramento. We have another chapter in the Central Valley, kind of the Fresno area. And then also we have a chapter in the High Desert, Victor Valley area.
Okay, so strictly California.
We're strictly California.
But different
we're
regions.
Talking to groups of appraisers in Southern California to expand. So we're not there to the point where we can announce anything, but we're talking to groups of people who get together on a regular basis and are interested in the REAA model.
Okay, so let's talk about that model. Where did the REAA come from?
It actually came from an older appraiser group in Sacramento. And that group kind of folded, but the people who were meeting enjoyed getting together and said, well, hey, let's just go ahead and move forward with a new group. And so it was founded in the year 2000. It started in Sacramento. There was a similar group getting together in the North Bay, and they heard about our group in Sacramento and said, hey, this is a great idea. Let's look at coming together. And so we opened a second chapter with the North Bay folks. Then a group of appraisers in the East Bay heard about our model. They were interested. At that time, we decided to put in some corporate governance. So we have a corporate board. We're a charitable organization. And we've since added chapters in the Central Valley and Fresno area, and then Victor Valley.
Love it. I love it. So let's back up even further, Joe, if you don't mind. Let's talk through this idea of an association. First of all, what is an association? For appraisers that are not, members of any of these or, don't really know what's going on that side, tell me, what is an association for an appraiser?
So the way REAA works, we get together on a monthly basis. We have in California the ability to offer 2 hours of continuing education in a meeting. So my chapter, we meet at a dinner club. We have dinner before our class and then do networking. And then afterwards, we'll have 2 hours on a specific topic. So we have the ability to network with local appraisers. You get to find out, who are your peers. You also get to find out, who knows more than you that you could ask questions of and potentially could be a mentor for you. What else?
And are you saying you actually get CE credit? Like it counts towards your CE hours?
It does.
That's amazing.
So our organization coordinates with the state of California, Bureau of Real Estate Appraisers, and we get our classes approved ahead of time. We offer the CE. So 10 meetings a year at 2+ hours per meeting. We typically offer 2 or 3 classes that are longer. So we have every 2 years, we'll do a 7-hour USPAP. Just last week, we had Richard Hager down in Sacramento to teach 7 hours for appraiser adjustments.
Great.
So, we bring in outside experts. We have our own group of appraisers who are willing to teach. But if you look at that, it means you're getting upwards of 25 hours of continuing education per year just by coming to dinner once a month.
That is awesome. Yeah, food and education, right?
Well, and don't forget the liquor.
Oh, there's that too. Nice.
Yeah.
That must be quite the meeting.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not as staid as other professional meetings I've been in.
I love it. Okay, good. So let's talk in general. Do you guys do you do any type of legislative lobbying? Standing up to the legislature, different laws and rules that are coming down, or state board issues. Do you deal with any of that, or is it mostly education and networking?
Our primary focus is education and networking.
Okay.
We do some state lobbying, but recently we became a member of the National Association of Appraisers. So REAA we're on the board of governors for NAA, and their expertise is in government relations and standing up for appraisers.
They're a great organization, by the way.
And so by teaming up with them, I think it's a great match.
Okay, perfect. I want to talk a little bit about you, Joe. What causes somebody to become a chapter president?
Well, first of all, I was like Brian, I'm sole proprietor working in my cave and at home. And prior to becoming an appraiser, I worked 10 years for a music and wholesale company with 2,000 employees. And so I was used to an office environment where I interacted with people all day long, where we'd go out to lunch, where we would talk and work through issues. And that structure just vanished when I became an appraiser.
Yeah, it doesn't work much with appraisers, unfortunately. No. It should, but it doesn't.
And those golden benefits that I used to have, I certainly wish I had today too.
Yeah.
But I felt this need for professional connection. And I met some folks at classes and they mentioned REAA. So I started coming to meetings. Once I was at meetings, I realized that if I volunteered for the education board, then or education committee, then I could direct at least 2 or 3 times a year what classes we were offering.
Nice.
So if I felt like, hey, I really don't know a whole lot about manufactured homes, I could say, hey, can we have a class on manufactured homes?
Right.
And because there were 3 of us on the committee, odds were pretty good I was going to get what I wanted.
Nice.
And so I went from there to becoming more active participant in the board. And, my past experience, I wasn't a manager, but I was interacting with folks. And I was an Eagle Scout as a Boy Scout. And
nice.
I volunteered for my son's scout troop, and I was a scoutmaster. And so all of that, led me to taking a leadership position on the board. And then Bill McKnight, our past president, was past president for 4 years. And there wasn't really anyone willing to step forward to let him, retire from the role. So eventually I said, it's my turn to do it. And so I'm just finishing up my 3rd year. And
oh, wow.
After next year, someone else will have to take over.
There you go. So what are you saying to somebody who's thinking about joining a group like this and thinking, well, I don't mind joining, but I don't want to be the president. I don't want to get stuck in that role.
I would say there's a lot of benefit to volunteering to help. And whether it's in a leadership role, whether it's working the front desk, whether it's helping to plan the education, there's additional benefits. And I want to thank Brian for stepping forward. He volunteered to join the board this year. So next year we're going to, assuming he gets elected, and we kind of try and emphasize how nice it is to elect everyone who volunteers to our board.
Right.
We're looking forward to having Brian as an active participant on the board next year. As a leader, I get it up. We have 100 members. And our typical class size is anywhere from about 35 to, we had 75 at Richard Hager's class.
Wow.
And so I'm running the meeting. Everyone sees me. They know who I am. And It's led to an increase in referral work.
Nice.
So I have other members who refer work to me. And then also it's led to me being recognized as a local expert. I don't necessarily, it's not necessarily based on teaching, but just because I'm willing to stand in front of the room, everyone kind of thinks that I know what the hell I'm talking about.
Right.
When I actually do teach, then I get to show them that I may or may not know what I'm talking about.
There you go. Awesome. Well, we're speaking, of course, with Joe Lynch and Brian Melsheimer about the Real Estate Appraiser Association out of California, but more importantly about associations nationwide and what they can and will do for people who join. We get a lot of complaints in this profession that there's not a lot of involvement. There's not a lot of rubbing shoulders with other appraisers. Well, folks, this is one of those ways that you can, and I would go so far as to say should, be involved in the profession that you have chosen to be involved in. I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by Alamode Software. Of course, Alamode is the software that I've been using for a long, long time. Why? Well, I'll tell you, folks, I love the other companies out there. I just got back from a couple of conferences, had opportunity to rub shoulders with Wayne Pugh, with George, with many other individuals out there, and they're great. They're great individuals, and they know what they're doing. A lot of software out there will get the job done. There's nothing I've found that will get the job done quicker than Alamode. It will allow you to be able to have a high quality report in a very short amount of time. Why? Because there's so many extra tools out there, folks. If you're not using Alamode, check them out. Go to alamode.com or call them at 800-ALAMODE. The other opportunity that I had when I was out at these conferences was to be able to look over the shoulder at some of the guys at DataMaster as they showed me DataMaster 6. Folks, if you've been using DataMaster 1 or beta or whatever you want to call it, the first version, I mean, that's amazing. And it will save you 30 to 60 minutes per report, not per year, not per week, not per day, per report. We're talking 30 to 60 minutes per report. Folks, I'll tell you, if you think that is cool, you need to check out DataMaster 6 and what it can do for you. It will probably, if it's not already, be in your area soon. This is the ability to basically do everything in DataMaster before you download it into the software. It is absolutely amazing. The amount of analysis that you can do in a quick amount of time with DataMaster is staggering. Check them out. Go to datamasterusa.com. One more time, it's datamasterusa.com. Folks, we don't think a lot about associations as we're talking about today with Joe and Brian. Why? They're just kind of off to the side. It's not something we really even bother with. We should be, but we don't. The other thing we don't really think about unless it's time to renew is our E&O. And I know that once a year I need to renew my E&O. And once a year, I always ask myself, am I with the best company possible? Well, one of the things about OREP, being with OREP, is you're not with just one company. You're with a broker, and that's different than being with a company. Here's why. A broker's job is to be able to shop around and get you the best deal. It's like having your personal shopper go around to all of the stores on Black Friday and picking out the very best deals for you. That's what OREP will do for you. You don't have to spend time shopping all of these E&O companies. You can go directly to the source, which will do the shopping for you. That's OREP Insurance. Check them out. Go to orep.org. One more time, it's orep.org. And welcome back. We're talking with Joe Lynch. He is the Sacramento chapter president for the Real Estate Appraiser Association, or the REAA. We're also talking with Brian Melsheimer, who kind of put this together. He's been on the podcast previously for Appraiser Stories, and he's also a member of the REAA. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thanks, Dustin. Sure
appreciate you guys being on the program. We were talking before the break, Joe, a little bit about being involved, but being the president of the REAA. That's kind of a big deal. Tell me more about that and some of the benefits of serving in that capacity. I'm sure you get paid a lot of money for that.
Oh yeah, I make the big bucks. Yeah, we're 100% volunteer, which helps reduce our costs. So being a member is $150 a year. 2-hour classes range from zero cost for a couple of places where our chapters have free facilities to $30 for dinner plus 2 hours of CE for my chapter. And then in the East Bay, it's $45 for 2 hours plus dinner. It's just so expensive in the Bay Area that
Sure.
Finding a suitable meeting room is really difficult.
I understand.
Yeah, one of the real benefits, though, is besides when I was in the education committee, I could kind of pick at least a couple of times a year what we taught. As president, I have a little bigger say in what we teach. But what's really nice is when we bring in a national instructor like Richard Hager, or if we bring in a George Dell, or we have Dennis Desai come out of the Bay Area frequently. Whenever we have an appraisal, kind of a basic area where we want someone really good to explain to us, we ask Dennis to come up, and he's been gracious with his time. But I've been able to meet these people and build relationships with them, and I can pick their brains. After the Richard Hager class, we have a tradition of taking him out to dinner, and so we'll just sit with him. John Dingman is a member of my chapter, and he's president of NAA, and he's famous for what he went through with Chase. If John Dingman Chase, if you want to hear a horrible story that happened to an appraiser, I've been able to meet these folks and associate with them and get to know them on a personal basis. And with George, I've been able to help teach many of his classes. I've been an assistant like 6 or 7 times with him.
Nice.
Hager, we broke bread and hung out for 4 hours. It's just by volunteering, I'm able to meet these people and actually learn more than in the classroom setting by being able to associate with them, and it's really helped my career.
Yeah, I really don't think that we can emphasize enough the power of being able to network with other appraisers and really being able to understand what that means. To not just your ability to, as you both talked about, get outside your appraisal cave, but it sometimes comes down to dollars and cents. It really does. I mean, I joked about you getting paid the high bucks, but you did mention earlier, sometimes you'll get referral work or what. I'm sure it doesn't pay for your time, but it's such a big deal to be able to be known as the expert and be able to get out there and have your name be known. It's those types of appraisers that are going to be around long after the quote unquote downturn. When other appraisers are going out of business, it's those experts, those people that are known, those people that have those associations and have rubbed shoulders with other appraisers that are going to be in it for the long term. Brian, I want to turn to you real quick and talk a little bit about your situation. We, of course, know about you from your appraiser stories. Thank you again for being on the program earlier. But let's talk about your experience with REAA. First of all, how long have you been involved with the Real Estate Appraisers Association?
So I joined in January of 2017.
Okay.
I had just completed or was just completing my classes for my renewal, with the state. And it's in California, it's 56 hours. And you can do that over 4 years. And like most appraisers, I waited until the last 6 months of those
to get it all.
years
Oh, yeah.
to do every single hour of this of the 56 renewal.
Right. Well, you learn a lot in a short amount of time, right?
Well, I did everything online, and it was convenient, and it's relatively. I mean, it's expensive, but it's easy to do. It's not terribly difficult. But once you've gone through that process there's not a whole lot of new classes out there, and you're not really learning the way I'd like to learn. And so for me, looking what I actually decided after that, hey, I'm not going to go through. It was stressful waiting for signatures to come in the mail and, the certifications and everything. I said, I'm not going to do that again. What's another way to do this? And that's when I found REAA. And I remember at my first class that I went to, I was sort of talking with some other people. I said, hey, this is sort of why I'm here is to get these CE hours out of the way. And they said, believe me, you'll never have to worry about CE hours again. So
that's a pretty big sell.
It is, and not just the hours, but then I learned that, wow, this is awesome. The class topics that we go through, we've had the local MLS there. We've had underwriters come in there. We'll have, appraisal teachers teach qualitative analysis. We've done social media for appraisers, accessory dwellings. These are all classes that I've gone through in the last couple of years.
Nice.
So, you learn with 2 hours, it's short enough to keep an appraiser's attention span right there. But it's also enough to get a great
intro. You say that as if it's different than other attentions, but you're right, by the way. I just want to point that out.
As an appraiser, you used to, be in a house for maybe an hour tops and then moving on. Yeah. And then, your report takes you 7, 8, 10 hours to do, and then you move on. And, we're not the type of people that love an 8-hour class to be in.
There is a reason I'm not a commercial appraiser, guys. I'll tell you that. And you just nailed it.
Exactly.
I have adult ADD when it comes to appraisal work. I'll get them done and I'll move on. It's time to move on.
Exactly.
Very cool. So, Brian, it sounds to me like it was kind of the education that drew you into REAA, but it sounds like there's some other benefits that you found as well while you're there. Yeah,
like you said, number one, the networking for me is huge. The local association of realtors they blast it on my MLS page all the time. They've got Oktoberfest, they've got wine mixers, they've got all these different education trainings where they get together. And most appraisers don't have that. And when I found this is such a good way of interacting with appraisers that are within my market or adjacent markets that give me insight to what's going on, volume issues, property issues, certain trends that may be coming into my market and what's happening in theirs. That's probably the biggest thing that I take away from it. I've met a lot of friends that, that are appraisers that I probably would have never, ever met before directly through them. I don't do too many reviews anymore in my area. It's become cost prohibitive and the time that it takes to do that. But you do get to learn, I've seen your name before on an appraisal. It's nice to put a face to the name.
Yeah, and let's, if you don't mind, I'm going to drill down a little bit there because I would assume there's some listeners out there saying, so I'm going to meet other appraisers in my neighborhood. I'm not exactly sure why that's a plus.
Well, I would imagine if, it depends on if you're doing a review and if you're the bad guy saying, oh man, I really don't like this other appraiser.
And I don't want to see him in person. Exactly. That's funny.
To be honest.
Please, Joe, go ahead.
If I can jump in, a good friend of mine I met through REAA, Rich Ballou, and he recently got a job with the state of California as an investigator. And so he's no longer able to communicate with me about current appraisals and so on because he's a state investigator. But we used to trade emails all the time about what was going on. Is one market increasing? Is it stable? What's inventory like? Hey, I've got an appraisal on Gibson Road. It's a 4-lane, 35-mile-an-hour busy street. Do you have any recent comps? I saw this in a house and I'm really dealing with this issue. Do you know anything that's sold? And so having these people that that cover your markets, that you can trade data with, that you can say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you offer me any advice? Being able to pick their brain. You build these relationships at places like REAA. The other thing is you'll learn who knows what. So I know Brian is covering Grass Valley and Nevada City. If I have a referral that's going to go to Grass Valley or Nevada City, and I know Brian is a very smart appraiser,
right,
I'm going to want to refer it to him as opposed to just any general appraiser that I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, that's huge. It's huge. And I know you guys aren't in it for the money, but I can't overemphasize that that is a huge thing. When you network with other appraisers, I can't tell you, just from going to conferences, rubbing shoulders, how many referrals I've had over the years because people trust you. People understand you. They've talked with you. They know you face to face. You're not just a name. You're a person to them. And if you've got something in their area or their expertise, you're gonna shoot it that direction. Brian, back to you. We kind of interrupted you there, but you were kind of on a roll. Go ahead.
No, it was kind of funny. Those are the exact two things that I was going to cover. I met another VA appraiser, which, as VA appraisals are a little bit more in depth than conventional loans, and we've learned we cover the same area. We're 2 of 4 appraisers that cover this county. And we can now bounce ideas off each other. He just emailed me on Friday and said, "Hey, what do you think about this roof? It's an old metal roof that looks bad on the outside, but there's no leakage on the inside. What else do you think I should cover? What should I comment on?" That sort of thing. VA is great that you've got a hotline you could call, but it's also nice to deal with someone that knows your direct market area and say, to lean on.
So, gentlemen, tell me, somebody's sitting back in their appraiser cave right now, and thinking, okay, guys, I kind of get it, but I know it's $150 a year. I get all my CE online. Sell an association such as REAA.
Well, if you're in the North Bay, the North Bay has no fees for their 2-hour CE classes. So you pay $150 for the North Bay chapter, and your CE is free. And you show up, and after 4 years, you've got 100 hours of CE that you can offer to the state. With my chapter, it's $30 every time you come down and have dinner with us and drinks. And so, it's really cost effective. It's certainly cheaper than other organizations out there. There's some that are quite a bit more. $150 is not even an affiliate membership with other organizations out there. So there's a lot of value in an inexpensive way to get your continuing education. We're all big proponents in REAA of in-person education. We think that people learn better in a classroom setting as opposed to on a computer when they're reading something or looking at a video, while at the same time they're cranking away at an appraisal.
Right. No, that doesn't happen. Come on.
I mean, we all have 4 screens, right? And one has your CE, and then the other 2, you've got your form filler, and then you got your Excel spreadsheet open, and you got your MLS open, and hey, you're getting your CE while you're making money. So, you're just not learning in that situation.
Yeah.
Being in person, there's a real benefit to it. The other thing is as we've been discussing, the personal connections you make. Working for yourself where you're not interacting with people on a regular basis in person can really get depressing at times.
It can, absolutely.
Yeah. And as we get older in life, it's harder to develop friendships. One of the ways that I've found that I've developed friendships later in life is through REAA. Most of my best friends who are appraisers, I met through REAA. All of them I met through the organization. It's a great group of people, and we have a lot in common because of our common interest for business. And then there's other folks within that set that I've found even more interest, and so I'm able to build and maintain friendships outside of appraisal.
That is great, Joe. Brian, what's your sales pitch, man?
I would say you're going to pay for CE regardless. And if you just look at it in this matter, do you just want to get the hours to renew your license, or do you really want to learn something and become a better appraiser? And by that, and with the networking, that it's all of that has made me a much more confident appraiser, running my business and my interactions with upset homeowners and agents. So realistically, I have found more confidence, me personally, because I'm a better appraiser.
Listeners, we've been talking with Joe Lynch and Brian Melsheimer of the Real Estate Appraiser Association, REAA out of California, but of course there are associations like this across the nation. Brian, thank you for joining me once again. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, Dustin. And
Joe, thank you for being a first-timer and being on the show. You did well, my friend.
Well, thank you, Dustin. I appreciate it.
Folks, we've been talking about the opportunity to reach out and rub shoulders with other appraisers, mostly to become better appraisers. But what about reaching out and rubbing shoulders to become better appraiser business owners? If you've not heard of my Appraiser Academy, I would encourage you to take a look at it online. Go to theappraisercoach.com. We have an opportunity. In fact, we did it just this morning. Met with a handful of appraisers across the nation where we were working on their businesses, helping them to be more successful as real estate appraisers. Check it out. Go to theappraisercoach.com. And check out memberships. We would love to have you join us. Thanks again, gentlemen, for joining us today, and we will catch you next time.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
So Joe was assisting George Dell's class, and this was a couple months after I had joined our REAA. So obviously I knew Joe. He's the president. He's up there speaking at every meeting. But I didn't even know if Joe knew me, and so we got a chance to sit down and talk and get to know each other a little bit better. And he says, "Brian, I know you." And I said, "What do you mean? Your name sort of rings a bell, but it's Joe Lynch, pretty common name." And he says, "No, when you were working for a lender, you gave me a bad review."
Oh no.
He didn't give me a bad review. He cut my value. And this was a house that I drive by every day. It's like 2 blocks from my house. And it's on the corner of a somewhat busy street in a quiet residential. And I didn't adjust for it being on the corner of the somewhat busy street. And Brian said, "You know what? It's worth $5,000 less."
So there's a little bad blood here.
Oh, yeah. That was more than 10 years ago, and I still remember.
You still remember. I love it. I love that you guys can talk about it, though. That's good stuff.
Well, yeah, and for any appraiser that might think, "Oh man," that's honestly what I thought is some reviewer is going to be there and be like, "Oh, you don't know what you're doing whatsoever." But I think the whole point of everything and getting together like this is we're not going to bring up individual instances and try and build bad blood or anything. And I don't even remember the property, but obviously Joe does. So
no, and it's because I drive by it every day. If it wasn't that, I would have forgotten. And the other thing is, he was right. It probably should have been a little bit lighter. So I didn't have any complaints about that.
I love it.
I just had complaints about, God damn it. You never want to be wrong.
Nope, you don't. No, you don't. Ask my wife.
In retrospect, he was probably closer to value than I was.
I love it. You guys are great. I appreciate you being on, both of you, and have a great day, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, just a couple of things I want to add, Dustin.
Please.
Using this conversation, I'm turning it into an article for Ann O'Rourke's newsletter for November. And so she's going to publish this. And we're going to have a list of appraiser associations in it, including we'll have a list of all the state organizations, and then we'll have write-ups of kind of the major national organizations like NAA, AI, ASA, that type of thing. So I don't know if there's a way to refer folks to that or mention it that in her paid newsletter that there'll be something about it. The other option is NAA has a list of all of the state organizations that people can go to. So if someone wants to find what appraiser organizations are in their area, they can go to the NAA website and then look at the map that has by state all the state organizations.